Hello, team, and welcome to episode 21 of Creative English. I could stop if I wanted, though. Team, today's class, we will be examining this one word, though, which is so useful in English. And I've taught many students, but I have never heard one who uses though naturally the way a native speaker would. It's because it doesn't really translate well if you imagine it in Portuguese. And it's such a flexible, useful word that I would like you to be able to use effectively. So let's take a look. And first question of the day, who are these three guys right there? If you did not instantly answer Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, you have lost some nerd points. And that will be one of our topics of the day. It was International Geek Pride Day on Sunday, and I do consider myself a nerd. I think maybe a little bit less nowadays. I don't have time to do nerdy things that I enjoy. So we'll be talking about nerds and their obsessions for different things. So our expression of the week, to roll your eyes when you are kind of disinterested in something. So you are rolling your eyes. That's your expression of the week. Hopefully you do not have to do this much in your life. And our warm-up content, a little video, 1 minute, about the difference between a geek, a nerd, and a dork. My students enjoyed it. I think you will too. Take a look. And for the first three official questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how nerdy are you? I would say I used to be like a 9. Maybe I've lowered to about an 8, maybe a little bit less just because of time. I do like nerdy things like RPGs, video games, but I do not have enough time. What is something nerdy you've been obsessed with in your life? I think the first thing that I remember loving was Pokemon when I was about, I want to say 7 years old. Pokemon Red came out. I picked Squirtle. Good choice. Preferred Charmander though. And I played Pokemon for many years. I'd say that was the first thing I remember being obsessed with. And number 2, what's something people get obsessed with that you have trouble understanding? For me, it's soccer. I don't get the need to shoot off fireworks and get into fights because of some millionaires kicking a ball. So that's the one that I don't really get. And if 13-year-old you could have cosplayed it as whatever they wanted, what would they have picked? Probably something wizard related. I think they're pretty cool, like these guys here. If they have a bear, that's just a bonus point. But our grammar point today is this word though. And I think these 4 sentences can demonstrate why I think it's so useful. If I use but, it needs to go here. I didn't like the movie, but the soundtrack was great. I can use though. I think though's a good choice. Though sounds a little bit softer. I remember my dad used to say nothing before but makes a difference. Oh, this was great, amazing, awesome, but, and boom, there comes the punch. So I think though it sounds a little bit more neutral. I didn't like the movie, though the soundtrack was great. You don't have that hard but in the other direction. We have this one down here. Though I didn't like the movie, the soundtrack was great. Commonly you'll hear although, even though. And in this case, it sounds a little bit more formal, and probably because you need to have this whole sentence prepared before you start speaking. If I were to say, though I didn't like the movie, and I stopped, doesn't make sense. So when I opened my mouth and said that first, though, I need to have that full sentence prepared. We have this one in the middle. I don't like the movie. The soundtrack, though, was great. And I can kind of hide this first part right here by emphasizing the soundtrack, though, was great. That's another option. And the first sentence here is the one that I would really like you to be able to use. And this is something that does not sound right if you interpret it in Portuguese. But I can think of 3 reasons. They're all connected, but 3 reasons why you might want to speak like this. Number 1, I didn't like the movie. The soundtrack was great, though. You can use it to include information. So if I say I didn't like the movie and pause, and then afterwards I include the soundtrack was great, though, it sounds natural. So it's an easy way to include information if you're speaking before you're thinking. Number 2, maybe a friend of mine, Maria, she tells me about this movie. I'm like, I didn't like it. And then Maria's getting sad. Oh, I don't want to be more political. The soundtrack was great, though. You can include this afterwards and kind of balance what you've said. Or 3, you can even fake spontaneity. It's going to sound redundant, but watch this. I didn't like the movie, but the soundtrack was great, though. And grammatically, it is redundant. I don't need both but and though. But just by including the word though at the end, it sounds like I just thought of it. So though can add that feeling of spontaneity, whether it is or not. It's a useful formation to have, and I don't hear my students using it. So that's my challenge for you guys. I want to hear you guys using it. And just quick little points. I mentioned that though is a little bit softer than but. And we also have the cousins, although and even though. And for practical purposes, same thing. They're both a little more formal. You can put them before the first clause right here. Although I didn't like the movie, the soundtrack was great. Or I didn't like the movie, even though the soundtrack was great, and I can include it here as well. Now, if you want the detail of the detail, although and even though, similar, but even though has an aspect of surprise. So even though she studied hard, I saw her studying every day. I can't believe it. She didn't pass the test. So we had that surprise element. Like I was surprised. So, even I liked the movie. I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to like it. So I think it's because of the even. Okay, you can use that to sound for the surprised. Your main activity, it's awesome though. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where it's something that you love and you're trying to convince somebody and you're just, the other person's not really into it. Well, today your challenge is to convince why something you have loved in your life is awesome. And speak for 5 minutes, but the most important part is to include those 3 times. And if you can use it at the end of the sentence, bonus points. All right, that's your challenge this week. And yes, I'm sure now that he has played Captain America in Marvel, he might look back at this movie in this way, but I don't know if this ever stops. Team, pronunciation, the O-U-G-H sound of death. And I have offered this challenge to my students many times. Nobody has ever managed to read this 100% correctly. I've had some good attempts, but O-U-G-H is a really unfair sound in English. And there are 9 pronunciations, depending where you check. It goes from like 7 to like 11 pronunciations if you're going into the nuance. We still need to be able to use some of these basic words, though. Starting with the class today. I love my work. I hate sitting all day, though. Yes, this chair is killing me. So, number 1. Number 2, just by removing that H, we have tough. The test was really tough. It sounds like 2 Fs. Stuff, S-T-U-F-F, tough, T-O-U-G-H. Somebody was drunk. I don't know how this works. We have some common words that use this pronunciation, though. Tough, enough, rough. So get used to the fact that O-U-G-H can be a sound of 2 Fs in some common words. We add an R after the H-O, we get through. And I've heard some students try to avoid this. We go by is similar, but go through is different. So through, try not to spit too much when you say it. And through, it's just a basic word. You need to go through something. This one, sometimes when my students see it written, they can't believe that this is how you write it. But the past tense of some irregular verbs, they sound like ought. Think, thought. Bring, brought. Buy, bought. Fight, fought. And even if it's an A instead of the O, catch, caught. Teach, taught. It's still the same pronunciation. So good news, if you see the T after this O-U-G-H or even A-U-G-H, you know how to pronounce it. Cool word. My students like this one, thorough or thoroughly. It means you did something in a really detailed way. I think it's a great one for work. We did a thorough analysis, or we analyze it thoroughly if you want to use the adverb form. Cool word to have up your sleeve. And the last one, we talked about through, but throughout, it means it's everywhere. There are many hills throughout Belo Horizonte. And just some words for you to practice your TH sounds, your OUGH sounds, so you sound like a pro. Our talking point this week, this is a good one. I got a lot of different insights, was about obsession. And I noticed that many people view obsession differently. Most people say it leans towards the unhealthy side. That, for example, it's when passion goes overboard. I heard one really cool analysis that passion is a feeling, while obsession is related to actions, repetitive action. You're obsessed with something, and I thought that was cool. I think there are some types of obsession that we admire. We see these athletes, these astronauts, doctors. They kind of have to be a little obsessed with their work, and then we admire it. But then I think depending on the result, there's a lot of bad things that can happen when somebody is obsessed. So that was our talking point this week. When was the last time you felt obsessed with something? We're talking about like nerdy stuff. The Red Rising trilogy. As an adult, I don't remember being so engaged with a book like the Red Rising books. Awesome. Space opera. It's like, it starts like the Hunger Game on Mars, then it goes into all out war. Very cool. So that's my pick. HBO, please turn it into a series. Don't let Disney or Netflix get a hold of it. HBO, I want you guys to do it. So Red Rising, I can't wait until it becomes a series. Someone who you know was obsessed with something. I guess the soccer. Too many people here in Brazil are obsessed with some soccer team or other. And thankfully, I don't know anybody who has the baby reborn problem. But I guess that's one that's been in the news as well. I mentioned this earlier, definitely Pokemon. It started with Pokemon Red on Game Boy. I used to trade them with my friends. Awesome. That's my pick. And what is something you think is cool but have never gotten into? I have too many. Speaking Japanese, I wish I could learn another language. An instrument, play the saxophone. Just like I can't really prioritize that. Too much stuff I need to learn for work. But the big one, maybe surfing. If I lived near a beach, I would definitely learn how to surf. That's the one. And your challenge this week, revisiting, and there's an extra D there, revisiting an old obsession. So I'll give an example. I had a student this week telling me that she used to play a game called Lineage. And I was like, Lineage, what's that? And then I saw it, I was, oh, that's Lineage. And she's like, oh, cool. And she said that she used to be a spell singer. Then when she looked at it, she's like, oh, no, this is spell singer. So your challenge this week is to revisit an old obsession with your current English eyes. You've developed, you've grown, you've evolved. And I'm sure if you go back to that, whether it's an old Disney movie you liked, a game you used to play, a series you used to read or watch, I think you might see it differently. And it might be a great boost to your English. So that's your challenge this week. Bonus round for the Pokemon fans out there. What 3 Pokemon have a guaranteed spot on your team? Alakazam, Gengar, and Snorlax. I am old school, Gen 1. Team, that's it. Thank you, and I hope to see you in class.